May the host please start the webinar?
Webinar has been started.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to today's New York City Council hearing for the Subcommittee on Zoning and Franchises. At this time, please silence all electronic devices. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the meeting of the Subcommittee on Zoning and Franchises. I am Councilmember Kevin Riley, Chair of the Subcommittee. I am joined today by Chair Lewis, Councilmember Abreu, Councilmember Carr, and remotely by Councilmember Moyer. Today we will vote on 2 parking special permits in Manhattan that we heard by the subcommittee on January 24th. We will also hold a public hearing on the zoning text amendment proposed in Manhattan. Before we begin, I recognize the subcommittee counsel to review the hearing procedures.
Thank you, Chair Riley. I am Arthur Ha, counsel to this subcommittee. This meeting is being held in a hybrid format. Members of the public who wish to testify may do so in person or remotely via Zoom. Members of the public wishing to testify remotely may register by visiting the New York City Council website at www.council.nyc.gov/land use to sign up, or for anyone here with us in person, please see one of the Sergeant-at-Arms to submit a speaker card. Members of the public may also view a live stream broadcast of this meeting at the Council's website. When you are called to testify before the subcommittee, if you are joining us remotely, you will remain muted until recognized by the chair. When the chair recognizes you, your microphone will be unmuted. Please take a moment to check your device and confirm that your microphone is on before you begin speaking. Public testimony will be limited to 2 minutes per witness. If you have additional testimony you would like the subcommittee to consider, or if you have written testimony you would like to submit instead of appearing before the subcommittee, you may send it via email to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Please indicate the LU number and/or project name in the subject line of your email. We request that witnesses joining us remotely remain in the meeting until excused by the chair, as council members may have questions. Finally, there will be pauses over the course of this meeting for various technical reasons, and we ask that you please be patient as we work through any issues. Chair Riley will now continue with today's agenda.
Thank you, Council. Today we will vote to disapprove LU's numbers 165 and 166 relating to the 213-227 West 28th Street parking special permits in Councilmember Bottcher's district in Manhattan. These applications requested zoning special permits pursuant to Section 13-45 and 13-451 of the zoning resolution to allow 2 accessory parking facilities with a combined maximum capacity of 77 parking spaces on portions of the ground floor cellar and subcellar levels of 2 adjacent mixed-use as-of-right development. And now I'm going to read a statement by Councilmember Bottcher. I will now read a statement by Councilmember Bottcher and note that a written copy of these remarks will be submitted to the record. This part of Chelsea that includes the site of these parking applications has seen an increase in pedestrians, bicyclists, buses, rideshare services, and taxis in recent years. The transportation system here has evolved, with the city adding city bike stations, bike lanes, bus lanes, a dedicated busway, sideway widenings, and other pedestrian improvements, and subway infrastructure improvements by the MTA, with still more to come. In fact, if you look at Zillow listings for these buildings, you'll see that the walk score is 99 out of 100, the bike score is 95, and the transit score is 100. It is increasingly easy to get around without a car, and we want that trend to continue. To give you a sense of the bountiful transit options at this location, just a few steps to the 1 train at 28th Street, a few blocks to the C and E trains at West 23rd Street and 8th Avenue, or the D, F, and M train, as well as the PATH train to Jersey at West 23rd and 6th Avenue, and less than a 10-minute walk to 2 of the most well-connected transit hubs in North America, at Penn Station and Moynihan Train Hill and Herald Square, Greeley Square, and including access to Amtrak, Intercity Rail, and the Acela High Speed Network, the Long Island Railroad, and the New Jersey Transit Commuter Rail System, the PATH train, and the 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, D, E, F, M, N, Q, R, and W subway trains. Also within a 10-minute walk, there's access to the M34 SBS and the M23 SBS rapid buses, as well as 9 local buses and 32 out-of-borough express buses. So a lot of transit. And beyond that, the Penn Station Access Project is expected to bring Metro North commuter rail services to Penn Station by 2027. Cutting carbon emissions in this neighborhood is vitally urgent action considering that, in large part due to vehicle traffic, CB5 already has the worst air pollution in the city, rated at a 9.2 PM, 2.5 micrograms per cubic meter. And keep in mind that conservative estimates count PM 2.5 air pollution as the cause of at least 5% of deaths and hospitalizations for at least 6,300 New Yorkers annually. The applicant has indicated that their intention is to accommodate electric vehicles at 25 of the 77 parking spaces they are proposing, and to be prepared to potentially accommodate electric vehicles at the remaining spaces. However, we don't know how long it will take before all or even just a significant amount of garage users will be driving EVs, nor is there any guarantee that they will, as the developer will not control the vehicle type of garage users given their intent to sell the parking spaces. In the meantime, those spaces will be accommodating gas engine vehicles. Furthermore, there's no guarantee that all the remaining spaces would be electrified. I'll note in closing that over the course of a lengthy public review process, these are some of the reasons that formed the basis of the community board and the borough president's vote for disapproval. Given all these factors, I cannot support this application and must recommend disapproval by the subcommittee. 1 second, please. I would also like to give comments on this project. As we confront the ongoing and extensional threat of climate change, the New York City Council is committed to doing everything we can to reduce the city's greenhouse gas emissions. In 2019, the Council took unprecedented actions when it passed the Climate Mobilization Act, and we remain strongly committed today to reducing the city's greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2030 and by 80% by 2050. Recognizing the far-reaching consequences of climate change, the need to act immediately, the state followed suit and established its own ambitious emissions goal in 2019. However, enacting legislation is not enough. We must make sure that all actions that we make as council members undertake bring us closer to achieving our state emission reduction goal. We will not reach those goals through a single action or project. The need reductions will only be achieved through incremental steps. While these may seem negligible on their own, their getting a little tongue twirls now. Their effect will make a real difference. Vehicle traffic account for 21% of the city's greenhouse gas emissions, and every project implicating vehicular traffic has to do its part. Achieving the emissions targets is non-negotiable, as the city's very ability to function properly will be impaired unless we reach these goals. The additional parking requested by these special permits application is located in an area that is very well served by public transit. As stated by Councilmember Bottcher, the proposed parking is located next to no less than 4 subway lines, a regional train station, as well as multiple bus lines. Not surprisingly, 83% of the residents in this area do not have access to a vehicle and instead rely on this great public transit access. Yet, the applicant is requesting a parking ratio for the proposed buildings of 39%, in strong contrast to the modest car use of area residents. According to the applicant, neither the need to commute nor the neighborhood's economic viability is driving the need for these applications, but rather a desire by the developers of this new luxury housing to facilitate weekend getaways. In 1982, the City Planning Commission adopted the current parking limitation explicitly to reduce parking in the Manhattan core because the air quality was so bad. As Councilmember Botcher referred to, 40 years later, the air quality in this neighborhood remains amongst the worst in the city. The 2011 Manhattan Core Parking Study also makes clear that allowance for additional parking were intended to accommodate certain uses, such as hospitals and site of large public assembly. Noticeably, missing from these uses is the sale for hundreds of thousands of dollars of such accessory spaces to facilitate private vehicle use in high-end residential projects. Besides the academic study that the Manhattan Borough cited in his recommendation, I am entering into record 3 additional studies that make it clear the more parking there is in a building, the more likely household will own and use a car. I am also submitting for the record both the 1982 CPC resolution and the 2011 Manhattan Core Parking Study. Finally, it is important to note that the applicant here is under no legal obligation to actually provide electrical charging stations. There is also no guarantee that the people who will buy or rent these additional parking spaces will choose to use electrical vehicles. Therefore, these applications amount to a request to set aside the need for everyone to do their part in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and to facilitate the luxury lifestyle of a select few. Following a lengthy public review process and having considered the applicant's arguments for the additional parking against consideration I just discussed, I support Councilmember Botcher in his opposition to these applications and recommend a disapproval. I now call for a vote to disapprove LUs numbers 165 and 166 for the 213-227 West 28th Street parking special permit. Council, please call the roll.
Chair Riley.
Aye.
Councilmember Moya.
I vote aye.
Councilmember Lewis.
I vote aye.
Councilmember Abreu.
Aye to disapprove.
Councilmember Schulman.
Aye to disapprove.
Councilmember Carr.
Aye.
The chair, by a vote of 6 in the affirmative to disapprove LUs 165 and 166, the vote is adopted and referred to the full Land Use Committee.
Thank you, Council. I failed to mention we've been joined by Councilmember Shulman. I will now open the public hearing on the preconsidered LUs related to the ULIP numbers 230045 ZRM relating to the oldest elevated building at 260 11th Avenue in Councilmember Botcher's district in Manhattan. This application seeks a zoning text amendment to modify provisions of the special West Chelsea district. For anyone wishing to testify on this item remotely, if you have not already done so, you must register online, and you may do that now by visiting the council's website at council.nyc.gov/landuse. And once again, for anyone with us in person, please see one of the Sergeant at Arms to prepare and submit a speaker's card. Council, please call the first panel for this item.
The applicant panel will include Gene Travers, Land Use Counsel for the applicant, and Alan Reagan on behalf of the developer.
Council, please administer the affirmation.
Panelists, would you please raise your right hands? I will ask each of you in turn to answer the following. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before the subcommittee and in answer to all councilmember questions? Mr. Travers?
I do.
Mr. Reagan?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. For the viewing public, if you need an accessible version of this presentation, please send an email request to landustetestimony@council.nyc.gov. And now the applicant team may begin. Panelists, as you begin, I would just ask that you state your name and organization for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Riley and council members. My name is Gene Travers. I'm a land use attorney with Kramer Levin, Neftalis, and Frankel. I'm joined by Alan Reagan of Ornado Realty Trust on behalf of the applicant, and we are here to present the Otis Elevator Building text amendment. Next slide, please. I'm just going to start by giving a very brief history to kind of set the table for the actions that are being requested. First of all, this site is within the Special West Chelsea District, which was adopted in 2005. We're also located in the West Chelsea Historic District, which was adopted in 2008. In 2009, a prior owner of this site secured a zoning amendment to address a split lot condition, which we'll discuss in a moment. But for the time being, you should just be aware that that application was approved by Community Board 4, and it applied to this development site only. 2015, the applicant entered into its ground lease for the site. And in 2019, we obtained a certificate of appropriateness from the Landmarks Preservation Commission. That application was also approved by Community Board 4. We filed a draft of our land use application in 2020, and that's the application that's before you today. Next slide, please. So where we are currently, first and foremost, there's no change to the design that was previously approved by the Community Board and LPC. What we are seeking are technical adjustments to the zoning resolution that are needed to actually build that previously approved project. Specifically, we're looking to amend the height and setback regulations of the special district to allow the LPC-approved enlargement of the Otis building. And we're also looking to amend that zoning text that was adopted in 2009 just to ensure that it will continue to apply to this project area once the zoning lot is enlarged. And similar to the 2009 zoning text amendment, these changes are going to be limited to this site only. We're happy to report that Community Board 4 and Borough President Levine have recommended approval of this application. Next slide, please. Just to orient ourselves, we are on 11th Avenue between West 27th and West 26th Streets. We are in Councilmember Bottcher's district. The project area consists of 3 different tax lots. Tax lot 1 is the Otis Elevator Building site, and it also includes a vacant surface parking lot along West 27th Street. Tax lot 6 is occupied by a 6-story commercial building known as the John Williams Building, and tax lot 10 is occupied by a 1-story commercial building. Next slide, please. This is a rendering of the proposed condition. The project is going to consist of a renovation of the Otis Elevator Building, the John Williams Building, as well as the construction of a new structure on the vacant parking lot located behind the 2 buildings, as you can see here. Those 3 structures are going to be interconnected. They're going to operate as a single building under a single certificate of occupancy. Next slide, please. This is a rendering along West 27th Street. You can see the new structure on the vacant parking lot more clearly. Next slide, please. And this is a rendering on 26th Street. You can see the renovated Otis Building and John Williams Building in the backgrounds. In the foreground is the 1-story commercial building with the slanted roofs on Lot 10. And then you can see the new structure on the parking lot rising up and over the existing structures. And it's really this setback enlargement that's driving the need for the first of our requested zoning text amendments. Next slide, please. So the current zoning regulations mandate a uniform street wall up to a height of 125 feet. The problem is that the Otis Elevator Building is only 111 feet tall. This means that an as-of-right enlargement under the current regulations would need to be located at the street line and rise to a height of 125 feet before a setback could be incorporated. As you can see in the diagram on the left, this enlargement would overwhelm the historic building. It would be significantly visible from the street, and that's why LPC approved our minimally visible setback design shown in the diagram on the right. What we're seeking to change with the text amendment is to make the minimum base height equal to the existing height of the building, and that's going to allow our setback enlargement to occur on an as-of-right basis. Next slide, please. The second text amendment involves a technical adjustment to that floor area provision that was adopted in 2009 specifically for this site. That 2009 provision was created to ensure that the overbuilt condition of the Otis building in the C63 district portion of the site would not unintentionally diminish the development potential of the vacant M15 portion of the site. And the way that 2009 provision works is that it allows the floor area ratio in the C63 district to be increased to cure the overbuilt condition of the Otis building by making a contribution to the Highline Improvement Fund. As drafted, that 2009 provision applies only to zoning lots existing prior to June 23rd, 2005. That was the date of adoption of the special district. The requested amendment would simply remove that limitation to ensure that the provision continues to apply to the enlarged zoning lot. So what you're looking at is the zoning lot as it exists today. Next slide, please. And this diagram shows the zoning lot as proposed, inclusive of Lot 10. And Lot 10 is part of the project because the excess floor area is actually used in the previously approved design by LPC. So again, these changes that are being requested are just to ensure that the previously approved design can actually be constructed. That concludes our presentation. We hope we can count on your support of this project and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. And I just have one question before I open it up to my colleagues. You may have mentioned this during your presentation, but are there any other specific sites to which this text amendment would apply?
Yeah, so this, although we are removing that time limitation, the text as drafted will still only apply to this development site. We went through a very thorough analysis with city planning, and the reason that is because this is the only site within the special district that presents the specific condition of an overbuilt building in C63, built to greater than 5 FAR but less than the max of 7.5, and an underbuilt portion in the M15 district. This is the only one that presents that situation. You couldn't recreate it. So this provision as amended will continue to only apply to this site.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do any council members have any questions? There being no questions, this applicant panel is excused. Council, are there any members of the public who wish to testify on the Otis elevated building proposal remotely or in person?
If there are any members of the public who wish to testify on the Otis elevator building proposal, please use the raise hand button now if participating remotely, or if you are here with us in person and wish to testify, please see one of the sergeants to submit a speaker card.
There being no members of the public who wish to testify on the pre-considered LUs related to the ULIP number 230045CRM relating to the Otis elevator building, 260th 11th Avenue proposal, the public hearing is now closed and the item is laid over. That concludes today's business. I would like to thank the members of the public, my colleagues, subcommittee council, land use and other council staff, and Sergeant at Arms for participating in today's hearing. This meeting is hereby adjourned.